What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about how to pass EMT school and kind of my experience with it, what I did to pass, and what to expect in EMT school. Before we get into it, make sure to hit that like button, and if you do enjoy this video or find it helpful at all, feel free to subscribe. It does help out my channel a ton. But let's get right into the video. Okay, so I did go through EMT school through a fire department. I graduated everything, and I did learn a few things along the way. The first thing that I learned, and the most important thing that is going to depend on if you pass EMT school or not, is if you are good at reading a lot. There's a lot of reading when it comes to EMT school. I would usually read about 50 pages a day. There are also 4 quizzes a week, and the book that we had to read is like this thick, and we had to read it in like 4 months. So it was a lot of information to take in. And just a lot of reading, guys. And it's not even just the reading that is really hard, it's also the fact that you have to comprehend what you're reading. So, you can read 50 pages a day and just knock it out and force yourself to sit down and read that book. But if you're not comprehending anything, then the quizzes that you have either every day or every other day are just going to fly right by your head, and you're going to fail quiz after quiz after quiz. So, just a lot of reading, but also comprehending what you're reading. And guys, the things that you're reading, it's not like it's super easy to comprehend. It's not like it's some fiction book. It's, a lot of anatomy, a lot of biology. There's a lot of law, like a lot of things that you have to know when it comes to being on the ambulance and helping people as an EMT, and what's in your scope of practice, and what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. What can happen if you break those laws and the repercussions that come back on you. Those are all things that you have to know, and they're all things that you do get quizzed on. You can do it as long as you have a set schedule and you stay focused. You have to be focused when reading this book. You have to be focused when taking these quizzes and going to class and being in EMT school. So you can do it. I'm not trying to scare you guys, but just make sure that you have a set schedule and you remain focused throughout the whole course when reading this book, or else you'll get lost. It's so easy to get behind because it's so many pages every single day. If you miss one day, then the next day you have to read 100 pages. So it's really easy to get behind. I will say that reading that book and taking those quizzes and studying for the quizzes was the hardest part of EMT school for me. So in my opinion, if you guys can really focus on that and do good at that part, then the rest of EMT school should be fairly easy. The next part of EMT school that was kind of challenging for me, some it might not be challenging at all, but for me at least, it was the classes, and simply because the class was 4 hours long. Oh, that was so long to be sitting in a classroom. A lot of times it would just be all of us sitting in a room, no AC, and it was the summertime, so no air conditioning, and it was super hot, and we would just be lectured to for 4 hours straight. Those were long lectures. We did get a couple breaks throughout it, and we were allowed to go outside and chill, just talk, go to the bathroom. But for the most part, we were in that classroom for the 4 hours. Also, you can only miss 2 classes throughout the entire course, and you really just want to use those in case you're sick or something comes up. There's 2 classes that you can miss, but there are some classes that you cannot miss at all. So some of the classes you have to go no matter what. Now, when we weren't getting lectured to, we would do a few different things. So we would go through scenarios with the paramedic. We would watch videos, different things that have happened on ambulances before. They would also tell us stories and different things that have happened to them, and just to kind of create more of a learning environment, real world situations, as well as we would go over and learn these things called skills. To become an EMT, you have to pass the cognitive test, the NREMT, on a national level, and that's just based on everything you learned in your class and everything you learned from the book. As well, you also have to pass off the skills. You have to learn those and pass them off on a national level. So some of those include spinal immobilization, medical assessment, trauma assessment, splinting, CPR, and there are a few others. You can look them up on the NREMT website. So sometimes for, let's say, half the class, we'd lecture for a couple hours, and then the last 2 hours, we'd actually go learn these skills and practice these skills on our classmates. Once you're ready and once you think you have them down, you can go test with the instructors, but the thing is you have to do them perfectly. There's a little sheet that they have, and you have to do them perfectly. There's certain things that if you do, they're critical fails. So if you do even one little thing wrong in certain situations, then it's automatic fail. and you can only fail 3 times. Once you fail a skill 3 times, you have to retake the class completely. You fail. That's it. Don't worry though, you probably won't fail. No one in our class failed any of the skills tests. They have you go over them over and over and over again. They're with you while you're doing it, while you're practicing on your classmates. They correct every little thing that you do, and so when you go to test, you're basically perfect at these skills. Once you do graduate from EMT school, you do have to go take the NREMT, the national test, which is a little bit more challenging than those quizzes you did over the chapters you were reading. So only around 60% of people pass that test the first time. Luckily, you can do it as many times as you want, but right now it is $98 to take. So if you take it and you fail, you have to pay another $98 to take that test. But only 60% of people pass it the first time. That is absolutely insane. So it is a fairly challenging test, and I'd suggest just have a week to study for it before you actually take it, as well as take that test right after you graduate EMT school, because if you wait a month or 2 months to take the test, then you haven't looked in your EMT book in that long, you're going to forget some things. It's inevitable. Even if it's only a few things, that can be the difference between your passing or your failing. So I would recommend waiting no longer than 2 weeks to take that test after you graduate EMT school. So just to recap real quick on how to pass EMT school. So read your book, make sure you're understanding, studying, and comprehending everything in that book. Taking the quizzes, make sure that you're passing all the quizzes, understanding the questions that are on the quizzes, because those are very similar to the NREMT. Going to class, paying attention, passing off all your skills tests, and then making sure that you're studying and passing the NREMT. So those are the steps to EMT school and how to pass EMT school and kind of my experience with it. As well, and I will just kind of talk about this briefly, how to get into EMT school. So there's 2 different ways, 2 different things that you can do. You can go through a college or you can go through a fire department. Like I said earlier, I did mine through a fire department. But you don't actually have to have like super good grades in high school. You do have to have a high school diploma, but you don't have to have like super good grades in high school or a college degree or anything. So for me, I just went on their website, signed up, paid the fee. Mine was $1,200. Everyone's kind of different. I was going to do it at a college at first, and they were going to be like $1,500. So depending on where you go, depends on how much it's going to cost. But it's really just first come, first served, so they have a certain amount of spots. And if you get there in time to get one of their spots, and you get a spot, and you just pay the fee, and you're on your way to EMT school. Hopefully you found that video helpful, guys. If you have any questions, any further questions on what my experience was like, feel free to comment down below. If you guys enjoyed that video, feel free to subscribe. I do make new videos every week. Have a good day, guys. See you next week.